Yo, what's up, guys? It's Paul with the TCG Noobs, and I'm coming at you today with my Creepshow Gengar deck that I've been playing the past couple of weeks. I'm really excited about the rotation that's going to be happening soon. I think the format's going to slow down a little bit, so I really feel like a deck like this that takes a little bit of time to set up and then is able to grab some quick knockouts really might have the ability to thrive, in the upcoming format. You got a lot of Pokemon that, are going to take time to set up, like Gardevoir, Metagross, that are going to take, a turn or two for them to get online. And hopefully, while they're doing that, I'll be able to pile on some damage and really make this Creepshow deck work. The deck is based around Gengar's Creepshow attack, which for a Psychic and a Colorless states that if your opponent's active Pokemon has 3 or more damage counters on it, that Pokemon is knocked out. So what I'm going to be trying to do is while my opponent's setting up, I'm going to be trying to get spread damage amongst their active and their bench. That way that by the time they come in, they're going to have, 30, 40, 50 damage counters already on them. That way I can come in and I can, kind of steal a knockout from possibly, like a 2-prize card like a Gardevoir GX, a Metagross GX, and try to, get up as quick as possible on my opponent. I'm going to be trying to do this a few different ways, and I'm going to be trying to do it quickly. So the Pokemon I'm going to be looking at is going to be Tapu Koko Promo with the Flying Flip ability. For a double colorless, I can do 20 damage to each of my opponent's Pokemon. So I'll be doing 20 to the active, and I'll be doing 20 to the bench. So in two turns, I can pile on 40 damage, and from there, everyone is set up. I'm not going to be looking to take, any big swings for any large numbers. I'm just going to be looking to, come in, get some chip damage, and after that, get my Pokemon out, get Gengar in, and hopefully grab the knockout with that Creepshow ability, with that Creepshow attack. I'm also going to be running Eevee and Espeon GX. The reason I'm doing this is because of Eevee's Energy Evolution, which allows me on turn 2 or turn 1 to slap on a Psychic Energy, and from there, I've got, a pretty threatening attacker at that point. And the ironic thing is that Eevee's Psybeam ability does exactly 30 damage for 1 energy, which is awesome. It also leaves my opponent's active confused, which is going to provide a certain level of defense, for my Tapu Koko, for my Gengar, because they're not the bulkiest Pokemon in the world. Also, Eevee has the Divide GX ability, which allows me to put 10 damage counters on my opponent's Pokemon in any way I like. So let's say, they bring, it's turn 3. I've already, had 2 Tapu Koko attacks. I have 40 damage on most of their Pokemon. They bring in something else, the turn before it doesn't have any damage on it. I can Divide GX. I can spread, 30 damage there. I can put, damage counter somewhere else, possibly grabbing a knockout on something that's going to be like a stage, a basic or a stage 1. And, to grab a quick prize card that way. But this just allows me to kind of, put the damage where I need it in that moment. That way I can ultimately bring in Gengar and, get that kill as quick as possible. Also, another good thing about Espeon is in the event that I can't get Gengar online, the Psychic attack, for a Psychic and a double colorless, it does provide me a pretty solid and a pretty bulky attacker. And especially in, I think the meta we're going to be going into, with, Volcanion, with Gardevoir GX, these Pokemon are going to be piling energy on left and right. So, there's the possibility that I might be able to, punish that, with the Psychic attack and possibly, grab some KOs outside of, my Gengar's Creepshow attack. Also, I'm going to be carrying 3 Tapu Lele GX. The reason I'm carrying the Tapu Lele GX is because obviously that Wonder Tag ability, which is going to allow me to search the supporters that I need when I need them. Especially if I want to grab, like, let's say, like a Guzman, if I want to need, like, an N, to disrupt my opponent's hand. Tapu Lele allows me to do that. It also provides, a pretty bulky body, and also the attack is based around, the amount of energy that's on the field. And like I said, with this meta coming up where energy is, going to be, kind of be getting thrown around kind of freely, I think that Energy Drive ability really has the potential to maybe pick up a few knockouts that I might not be able to get with my Gengar. In terms of like how I'm running the lineups, I'm running a 4-2-4 Gengar lineup. I'm running 4 Tapu Koko promos, 4 Eevees, 3 Espeon GXs, and 3 Tapu Lele GXs. In terms of my items, I'm going to be running 2 Field Blower. Originally, I had Potown in this spot because Potown, whenever your opponent evolves from their hand, will put 3 damage on, that Pokemon, which is great. 30 is the number we're shooting for. But the problem I was having is I would go against like a deck like Tapu Koko GX, where they put out that Aether Paradise Conservation Area, which prevented up to 30 damage on their electric and their grass Pokemon, which pretty much made my Psybeam useless, made my Tapu Koko Fly and Flip useless, and I had to go to a more traditional game, and it pretty much totally walled what I was trying to do with my Gengar, and it gave my deck a pretty difficult time. So I ultimately pulled back those Potown and I brought in those Field Blower, and it's also going to be, pretty useful against something like Fairy Garden, which, will prevent my opponent from being able to retreat Pokemon that I might want to keep in that I was going to snag, that I was setting up to snag with a possible knockout. Allows me to take off choice bands, allows me to get rid of items with a Garbatox and Garbodor, which will prevent my Tapu Lele from doing what it wants to do. And pretty much anything else, float stones, where once again, I don't want my opponent to be freely retreating in and out. I want to be able to, bring in a Pokemon, do what I need to do, possibly something that has no energy on it. That way it's kind of stuck in the active spot, and I can get back to, spreading damage out, as I see fit. I'm also gonna have 3 rare candies. The reason, obviously, pretty much rare candies gonna allow me to jump over the Haunter Evolution. If I have a Ghastly on my bench and I have a Gengar in hand and I got that rare candy, I don't even have to worry about the Haunter Evolution. I just go Ghastly, rare candy straight in the Gengar, and that allows me to get online as quick as possible to allow me to start taking those creep show attacks. Next, I'm going to have 4 Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball allows me to search out, what I need when I need it in terms of needing, a Gengar. Might need a Haunter. Might need, to grab an Eevee or something like that. Maybe grab, a Tapu Lele that I can put onto the bench and maybe search out a supporter card that I'm needing. Ultra Ball is just, an all-around stable card. Really doesn't need much explaining. Pretty much everyone's going to be running 4 of. Acerola, another great card. Acerola, what it's going to allow me to do is, let's say in the event I got, an Espeon GX that's got a bunch of damage counters on it. I want to deny my opponent the ability to take, those 2 prize cards. I play that Acerola, pull back my Espeon, put my Eevee immediately back down on the bench, put the Psychic Energy on it, and I instantly got Espeon GX pretty much back up online. Then if you look at a lot of my Pokemon, like the Tapu Koko, like that Gengar, they got free retreat costs. So let's say, I Acerola my Espeon GX out of that active spot. I can bring in either the Tapu Koko or the Gengar, get that Espeon back up online, and just free retreat back out and get the Espeon back into the active spot to let it keep doing what it's doing. Let's say I got, Tapu Lele that has a little bit of damage on it. I can, Acerola that Tapu Lele back into my hand, get it immediately back out on the bench, and I can double dip, recycle that Wonder Tag ability. That way I can, search out another supporter I might be needing. Next, we got Bridget. Bridget, is a great, turn 1 play. It allows you to search your deck for 1 basic EX or 3 basic Pokemon. That's awesome. I can, grab 2 Eevee, grab a Tapu Koko, grab, a Tapu Lele GX. Just pretty much allows me on turn 1 to set my bench up, how I'm going to need, for the remainder of the game. That way I can guarantee that I always have a Tapu Koko, I always have a Gengar online. And it just really, sets you up and makes you comfortable for the rest of the game. Guzman. Guzman's probably, going to be one of the all-star cards that comes out of Burning Shadows. It's pretty much a Life Sander and an Escape Rope all combined together. Guzman is going to allow me to switch one of my opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. If I do that, I gotta switch one of my Pokemon into the active spot. Ultimately what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to spread that 30 damage out between the bench, and I'm trying to spread that 30 damage out to the active spot. So if I see, something juicy getting set up on the bench that has, 30, 40 damage counters on it, I can Guzma that onto the field, and let's say I already have a Gengar in that active spot, I can, Guzma in my Tapu Koko, which has free retreat, then immediately get put back in my Gengar, which also has free retreat. So I can pretty much just recycle Pokemon in and out because of the free retreat, which is, a pretty awesome effect. And it's going to allow my Gengar to, grab those knockouts pretty much, not really having to worry about, taking much of a beating. I'm going to be running 4N. N, I think, is probably going to be one of the best cards, post-rotation. The reason I'm thinking this is because N allows you to, grab, is great for hand disruption. Let's say your opponent's a little bit ahead of you. You still got 6 prizes available. They got 4 prizes available. You end them down to 4. You draw 6. Whatever they were trying to do before that, you've disrupted their hand. Let's say you're going up against, the Nine Tails deck, which I think is going to be pretty popular in the upcoming format. That Volt, you're going to see them beacon with that Vulpix. They're going to pull out 2 Pokemon that they're looking for. Immediately I'm going to be looking to end those Pokemon right back into their deck, and I want to stop whatever they were trying to do. I'm looking to get rid of. Like, I don't want none of that business going on. Next up, Professor Sycamore. I'm running 3 Professor Sycamore. I originally had 4 in here. The problem is that I feel like with the deck I'm running right here, the games do go a little bit longer than, let's say, a deck that's coming in looking to grab one-hit KOs right out the bat. Games do tend to last a little bit longer, and I was finding myself running almost decking myself essentially, just from all the drawing and discarding I was doing. So I did go down to 3 Professor Sycamore. It hasn't hurt me yet. I've always been able to get N up and running. I've always been able to get Professor Sycamore up and running. Tapu Lele lets me find pretty much who I need when I need it. I don't think it's as important to have a 4 of Professor Sycamore as it is to have a 4N, because Sycamore really only affects your side of the field. It doesn't allow you to disrupt your opponent, so it's kind of like a card that only has like a one-way street. I'm also not looking to discard a lot of things. You don't want to end up discarding, let's say, like, an Ultra Ball or a Tapu Lele or something else, or an Energy or a DC that you might need later. It's good to have that card in your deck. That way, you have the chance of finding it later. You don't want it sitting there in the discard pile, especially with Versus Seeker gone. We're not able to bring back our supporter cards anymore, which is, really going to change how the format ends up playing out. I also have run 1 Skyla in here. Skyla allows me to search up, pretty much any trainer card, when I need it. Whenever, if I'm, need, a rare candy, I need a field blower, I need an Ultra Ball, play that Skyla, and I can pull those cards out of my deck as I need them. Let's say if I'm not worried about getting end by my opponent, or if I think he might end me, I'll go in there, I'll Skyla, grab out an N or something like that. That way I can force that N out of his hand, and it's pretty much going to be doing exactly what I wanted to do anyway. In terms of energy, I'm running 4 DCEs and 8 Psychic Energy. I'm really playing with the idea of bringing it down to 3 DCE and 9 Psychic Energy, just because I don't want to end up having to overload my Gengar and commit more energy than I really need to. But on the other side of that, in the event that I get into a situation where I can't get my Gengar online, it's really nice to have that DCE available, for the Energy Drive attack, on Tapu Lele, for the Psychic on Espeon GX, just to be able to power up, those moves and get them going as quickly as possible. That's pretty much it. Right now, I've been running the deck for about 3 or 4 weeks right now. I'm sitting on, I think, an 11 win streak right now in Versus. I'm going to be running this deck this weekend. I'm really, playing with the idea of possibly taking this deck to Hartford Regionals. I just have to see, in terms of how the format actually ends up, kind of ends up landing, after, a lot of cards rotate out and people, really are probably going to have some great ideas at Worlds. So I want to see where I sit in terms of, what the meta is going to be in the future. But I really think, this deck, might be sitting in a pretty friendly spot. There might be a few tweaks that I end up making between now and then. But, like I said, I've been having some pretty good success. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'd like to hear from you guys. And that's it. Keep doing what you guys are doing. Have a good one.